What did medieval people do for fun when there was no TV or telephone? Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back in time to the medieval era, a time when life was, let's say, a bit more aromatic. Imagine a world without Netflix, without smartphones, without even a decent Wi-Fi signal. Sounds like you probably won't survive this, right? But somehow, medieval people managed to have actual fun, without any of that. Tonight, we're diving into what they did to entertain themselves when there was no TV or telephone. So before you get cozy under those blankets, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this little history nap I'm crafting for you. Oh, and drop a comment with your location and local time. It's always cool to see where you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing in the middle of a bustling medieval village. The year is, let's say 1350, and it's a bright summer day. The air buzzes with the sounds of laughter chatter and the occasional bleat of a goat wandering through the chaos. As you glance around, the village square is alive with activity. No screens flicker, no phones ping, no one's glued to a device. Instead, everyone's caught up in the moment, connecting with the world around them. It's almost refreshing, isn't it? Though let's be real, you'd probably start missing your streaming queue after about 10 minutes. You notice the village is extra crowded today, and it hits you there's an annual fair in full swing. These fairs were a big deal back then, not just for swapping goods, but for bringing folks together. Picture it as the medieval equivalent of a pop-up festival part market part party, all community. People from nearby villages flood in eager to trade laugh and let loose. It's a mainstream historical fact that these events were social glue stitching together isolated hamlets into something bigger. But here's a quirky little tidbit: kids at these fairs played games like hoop rolling chasing, a wooden hoop with a sticker, even kicked around inflated animal bladders, an early stab at soccer. Meanwhile, scholars still bicker over how much free time these folks actually had. Did they toil non-stop, or did holy days and fairs give them more downtime than we assume? As you soak in the scene, it sure feels like they knew how to cut loose. You drift closer to a cluster of musicians, their lutes and drums weaving a tune that's equal parts lively and soothing. A circle forms, and soon villagers are dancing, spinning, clapping, stomping the dirt in a rhythm that pulls you in. You tap your foot, caught up in the beat. Nearby, a storyteller perched on a barrel spins a yarn about a knight wrestling a dragon, his voice rising and falling like a lullaby. Kids cluster around, eyes wide, lost in the tale. You can almost smell the adventure in the airwell, that and the faint whiff of livestock. Wandering further, you spot some children giggling as they roll a wooden hoop, racing to keep it upright. It's like a medieval version of those fidget spinners you're secretly glad went out of style. Over by a rickety stall, a few men huddle over a scratched-up board playing Nine Men's Morris. It's a strategy game. Think chess's rowdy cousin, complete with shouts and backslaps instead of quiet brooding. You half expect a checkmate, but nope, just more laughter and a fresh round. The food stalls beckon next, and oh, the smells. Freshly baked bread wafts over its crust, crisp and golden, mingling with the savory steam of meat pies straight from the oven. You grab a piece of roasted something, let's hope it's not too exotic, and chew thoughtfully. What would these folks think of your takeout pizza or sushi rolls? They'd probably trade their eel pies for it, though honestly, you're fine skipping the peacock tongue special. For dessert, a vendor hands you an apple dipped in honey, sticky and sweet, a medieval treat that's simple but hits the spot. Across the square, a troupe of performers steals the show. Jugglers toss bright balls in dizzying arcs, acrobats flip through the air, and a fire eatery as a fire eater sparks gasps and cheers. It's a full-on medieval circus, and you're clapping before you know it, swept up in the spectacle. Nearby, a gaggle of kids darts around, led by a girl with a flower crown and a grin that lights up the crowd. She's everywhere, giggling at a puppet show 1 minute, dodging carts in a game of tag the next. For her, this fair is Christmas birthday and summer break rolled into one. You hear a rhythmic clang and follow it to a blacksmith hammering a horseshoe into shape. But the real action's next to him, a group of guys tossing horseshoes at a stake betting on who gets closest. It's low tech, sure, but the trash talk and cheers make it a blast. You can't help but smirk. Modern tailgates owe these folks a thank you note. The sun dips lower, painting the sky in soft oranges, and torches flicker to life, casting a warm glow over the square. The music picks up more festive now, and whispers float about a feast coming up, maybe even some medieval fireworks, which, let's be honest, are probably just a guy with a torch and big dreams. Still, the energy's electric. You realize this fair's just the warm-up. Ahead lie sprawling festivals, wild games, and maybe a hunt or two plenty to keep you curious. For now, though, you linger here, wrapped in the hum of a village that turns connection into joy, no gadgets required. As the torches burn brighter, you sense the fair winding towards something bigger, a taste of the grand festivals that could stretch for days or even weeks. Imagine feasts that overflow with food dances that spin into the night and celebrations that make this village hum look tame. What kind of wild traditions waited in those bigger bashes? Stick around, because next time you're stepping into the heart of medieval revelry, where the fun really heats up. The village fair from Section 1 fades behind you, its cozy hum still tingling in your ears. But whispers ripple through the crowd about something bigger. Grand festival in the nearby town of Elderton, the Feast of St. Michael, promising days of feasting, dancing, and pure medieval chaos. You can't resist. Grabbing your cloak, you join a ragtag group heading out on foot. The dirt road pulses with life. Kids dart ahead, giggling merchants trudge with creaking carts, and a few nobles clop by on horseback, looking mildly annoyed at sharing the path with peasants. The air buzzes with excitement, a low thrum that seeps into your bones. What madness awaits at this medieval blowout? The trek takes a couple of hours, winding past golden fields and shadowy woods. You pass weathered shrines where folks murmur quick prayers, probably for good ale and better weather. Your group swaps tales and breaks into a jaunty tune about a knight and a wayward goose, which somehow makes the miles melt away. Cresting a hill. Elderton sprawls into view, a walled town crowned by a church spire, its gates draped in fluttering banners of red and gold. Distant music lutes and drums tickles your ears, and the faint scent of roasted meat teases your nose. Your steps quicken. You're here. Stepping through the gate, you're hit with a wall of sensation. The streets swarm with people in their Sunday best vibrant tunics, flowing gowns, a splash of noble silk here and there. Stalls hawk everything from fragrant spices to shimmering trinkets, their owners shouting over each other in a chaotic symphony. Minstrels pluck at lutes and pipes, jugglers toss flaming torches, a bold choice in a crowd. And the air thickens with the smell of sizzling meats and fresh-baked bread. It's overwhelming, like stepping into a tapestry that's come alive, and it's glorious. You weave toward the town square, where the real action unfolds. Long wooden tables stretch across the cobblestones, groaning under a feast that could feed an army. Roasted boar glistens with fat flanked by venison haunches and plump poultry. Bowls brim with pottage think stew, but chunkier and wheels of cheese sit like golden moons. Baskets overflow with apples and pears, while pies, meat, fish, fruit, you name it, tempt you with flaky crusts. Casks of ale and wine stand open, their contents sloshing into cups with reckless abandon. You slide onto a bench, grabbing a hunk of bread and tearing into the boar. The meat's rich, smoky flavor floods your mouth, and the bread soaks up the juices like a trusty sidekick. No forks, here fingers, and knives are the tools of choice, and you realize why medieval manners mattered. Everyone's watching you eat with your hands like some kind of communal performance art. Around you, the square hums with life. A farmer toasts a merchant with a sloshing mug, a kid sneaks an extra pie, and a noble lady daintily picks at her food, pretending she's above it all. The clatter of plates and roar of laughter wrap around you like a warm blanket. It's messy, loud, and perfect a celebration of survival harvest and not starving this year. You lean back full and content as the tables are shoved aside for the next act. The square morphs into a dance floor, and the minstrels kick it up a notch. A bouncy tune fills the air drums, thumping flutes, trilling, and folks flood in, forming a massive circle for a carol. Hands clasped, they sway left, then right, breaking into twirls and dips that look both graceful and slightly tipsy. A rosy-cheeked woman grabs your arm, pulling you in. "Come on, don't just stand there gawking," she laughs. You trip over your own feet, at first earning a few chuckles, but soon you're caught in the rhythm step sway. It's simple, joyous, and timeless, the kind of dance that makes you forget the world outside. Then disaster. Your enthusiasm lands your foot squarely on a blacksmith's toes, has a mountain of a man, and you brace for trouble, but he just grins. No harm done, friend. Just watch those hooves unless you're starting a new trend. You laugh, retreating to the sidelines before you accidentally invent medieval breakdancing. The circle spins on, without you, a whirl of color and sound, and you catch your breath grinning like an idiot. The festival's more than just food and footwork, though. On day 2, the crowd gathers for the crowning of the Lord of Misrule. A scrawny peasant, picked by chance, gets decked out in a patched cloak and a crown of twigs perched on a throne of barrels. He's in charge for the day, barking absurd orders. The baker must juggle loaves. All cats wear bells. The townsfolk howl with laughter as he decrees everyone speak in rhyme. You try. The fires bright the nights a sight, but a nearby mutt yowls in protest, and the crowd doubles over. It's a bizarre, delightful tradition, flipping the social order for a fleeting, hilarious moment. Faith weaves through the revelry, too. A procession for St. Michael rolls through all hymns and banners. The priest leads cradling a wooden saint, and you join the throng swept up in the solemn chants and swaying banners. These festivals tied to holy days were a medieval 2-for-1 praise. The divine then party like it's 1399. The sacred and the silly blend seamlessly, and you feel the weight of it. These people lived hard, but they celebrated harder. Night falls and bonfires blaze to life. Their crackle fills the air as folks huddle, close voices low and soothing. A bard spins a tale of a knight and a dragon, his words painting vivid pictures in the flickering light. Nearby, couples slip into the shadows, secret whispers, maybe a kiss or two. The cool air brushes your skin, but the fire's warmth keeps you cozy. It's intimate, almost hypnotic, the perfect wind down to the day. As the flames die down, you muse on what this all meant. Festivals were a life linea, rare chance to eat well, laugh loud, and feel human amid the grind. But were they equalizers? Scholars bicker over it. Peasants and nobles danced together, sure, but the best seats at the feast still went to the highborn. Still right now, with embers glowing and stars winking, it feels like everyone's in this together, a fleeting, beautiful truce. Days pass in a blur of more food, more dancing, more chaos. But as the festival fades, you spot clusters of folks engrossed in quieter fundus rolling cards, flipping a quick tug-of-war. Games, it seems, were the heartbeat of medieval merriment, not just at festivals, but every day. From smoky taverns to grand halls, people craved a challenge, a laugh, a win. The banners may come down, but the fun doesn't stop. Curious, let's dive into the games of chance and skill that kept them buzzing year-round. The festival's glow lingers in your mind, those wild dances, overflowing tables, and that ridiculous lord of misrule. But medieval life wasn't all grand blowouts. Between the harvests and holy days, people kept the good times rolling with games. Dice clattered in back rooms, chessboards stumped kings, and a quick wrestle could settle any score. What were these pastimes that hooked everyone from peasants to lords? Stick around, because next we're cracking open a world where luck, skill, and a little trash talk ruled the day. The festival's glow still lingers lute strings, humming the crackle of the bonfire, the buzz of a crowd drunk on merriment. But as the last dancers stumble off the village square, you notice the party doesn't just fizzle out. It migrates, spilling into smoky taverns and quiet corners, where the real fun begins, games of chance and skill. You trail a group of revelers into a tavern, the door creaking open to reveal a world of flickering firelight, clinking mugs, and the sharp clatter of dice. The air's heavy with ale sweat and a whiff of something you hope is just damp straw. This, you realize, is where medieval folks kept the good times rolling. You squeeze onto a bench near a rickety table where a handful of locals are deep into a dice game. A wiry guy with a beard that's seen better days grips the dice, muttering what might be a prayer or a curse before letting them fly. They skitter across the wood, a 3 and a 4. He slumps defeated, while the others hoot or groan depending on their bets. Dice games like Hazard were the medieval equivalent of a casino night, loved by everyone from grubby farmers to lords with too much gold to burn. The rules? Bet on the roll, cross your fingers, and hope Lady Luck doesn't have it out for you. You watch another throw, caught up in the electric mix of hope and chaos. It's pure, unfiltered thrill, think of it, as the Dark Ages answer to a slot machine. Not everyone's chasing luck, though. Across the room, 2 men hunch over a chessboard, locked in a duel of wits. One's a hulking knight, his dented armor glinting in the firelight as he nudges a pawn forward. His opponent's a wiry scholar, ink-stained fingers sliding a bishop into position with a smirk. Chess was the nobility's darling, a brainy flex that doubled as war prep without the bloodshed. It's quieter than the dice table, sure, but the stakes feel just as high. You lean in half expecting a cinematic checkmate, but the scholar pulls a sly move, sacrificing a rook to corner the knight's king. Gotcha, he murmurs. The knight snorts, slaps the table, and promises revenge next time. You'd bet he says that every time. The tavern's only half the story. Outside on the village, green kids dart around in a chaotic game of tag, their shrieks slicing through the dusk. Nearby, a knot of men grunt and tug at a rope, faces red with effort in a makeshift tug-of-war. It's all fun and games until the losers stuck buying the ale. Physical contests like these were everywhere, blending play with a bit of real-world grit. Wrestling was a big one, two sweaty guys grappling in the dirt crowd, roaring like it's a title fight. Medieval smackdown, no fancy ring required. Then there's archery, the rock star of outdoor games. You spot a row of archers, bows taut, eyes narrowed on targets 50 paces off. The air hushes as they loose their arrows, thwack, 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 each one sinking into straw. A scrawny kid nails the bullseye, and the onlookers lose it, clapping him on the back like he's just won the kingdom. Archery wasn't just sport. It was survival warfare, and swagger rolled into one. Tournaments dished out prizes, bows, arrows, maybe a fat chicken, and the top shots were village VIPs. You can almost picture a young Robin Hood strutting his stuff here long before the tights and the legend. Back inside, a quieter crew's hunched over cards in a corner. Cards, you say? Yep, they hit Europe late in the medieval game around the 14th century, and folks couldn't get enough. Games like Alouette or Carnful used decks that look alien today, odd suits, funky designs, but the vibe's the same. A sharp-eyed woman deals her grin, saying she's about to fleece her pals. They don't stand a chance, and you almost feel bad for them. Cards were so popular, they freaked out the church and the law. Too much idleness, they grumbled. Didn't stop anyone, though. These games weren't just time killers. They stitched people together, friends made over a lucky roll, grudges born from a bad one. Chess could cool a feud, letting rivals slug it out on the board instead of the field. For kids, it was simpler, pure wild fun, a break from hauling water or dodging chores. But let's not kid ourselves, gambling had a dark side. You catch an older man at the dice table lines, creasing his face as he tosses his last coin. The dice land a measly 2. He's done, and the crowd's pity can't pay his rent. Medieval life didn't mess around. One bad bet could sink you. Still, for most, these games were a lifeline way to shake off the grind of plowing fields or dodging plague. And they leveled the field, sort of. A peasant could outsmart a noble at backgammon. A kid could outrun the town, tough in a foot race. In the game, at least, you had a shot. The night's winding down now. Dice clatter less, the chessboard's tucked away, and folks start shuffling out, some richer, some lighter. You linger, savoring the fading hum of laughter and the clink of mugs. It's warm, this little pocket of life, a soft glow against the harsh edges of the era. Then a horn cuts through the quiet, low and haunting. The hunt. Word spreading tomorrow, the local lords leading a chase through the woods, and everyone's welcome to tag along. It's not like these tavern games. This is raw wild, a rush of blood and danger. You feel it already, that itch to see what's out there in the trees. But that's for tomorrow. For now, you let the tavern's spell pull you under, drifting off with dice and arrows dancing in your head. The tavern fades as sleep takes you, but your mind's already racing ahead. Dawn's breaking soon, and with it comes the hunt-misty woods, baying hounds, the pulse of the chase. It's not just a game. It's a full-on test of guts and skill, with a feast on the line if you're lucky. What drove medieval folks to dive into the wild like that, and what's waiting out there in the shadows? Hang on, because next we're plunging into the heart-pounding chaos of the hunt. The tavern's smoky haze lingers in your memory as you blink awake, sprawled across a straw pallet that's seen better days. Dawn's first light sneaks through the shutters, pale and cold, and a horn's deep wail yanks you upright. Your head throbs, thanks last night's ale, but there's no time to groan. The hunt's calling. You stumble out into the courtyard where a sharp breeze bites your cheeks and the world smells of frost and wet stone. A ragtag band of hunters mills about hounds, snapping at the airtails, whipping like metronomes, and riders adjusting straps on bows and spears. The local lord, a bear of a man with a beard, you could lose a dagger, incisors you up as you haul yourself onto a stocky horse. "Sleep well, did you?" he rumbles, smirking. You mumble something vague, hoping he doesn't notice your shaky grip on the reins. The party lurches forward, hooves churning the muddy path as you plunge into the forest. Mist drapes the trees like a shroud, softening the edges of gnarled oaks and turning the air thick with damp. Your breath puffs out in little clouds, and the scent of pine and loamy earth fills your lungs. Somewhere ahead, the hounds by a wild, eager chorus that sets your pulse racing. Your horse twitches beneath you, muscles coiling, and you tighten your hold, pretending you're not half terrified of what's coming. This isn't a tavern tale. It's real, raw, and thrumming with danger. Hunting wasn't just fun, and games in medieval times, it was a lifeline, a flex in a battlefield, all rolled into one. Nobles chased stags and boars to prove their prowess, training for war while showing off their land and wealth. Peasants. They hunted too, but quietly snaring rabbits or risking their necks as poachers under the king's nose. The laws were ironclad deer, and other noble game belonged to the elite, a privilege baked into the social order. It's a solid historical fact that these hunting codes mirrored the medieval pecking order lords at the top, peasants scrambling below, and the forest as their dividing line. Today, you're with the Lord's crew, so you're golden. Just don't trip over your own feet and ruin it. The hounds catch a scent, their howls spiking into a frenzy, and suddenly you're off. Your horse surges the forest, blurring into a tunnel of green and shadow. Branches claw at your cloak leaves, rustling like whispers as you duck and weave. The thrill slams into you sharp, wild, a jolt that drowns out the ache in your bones. Through the trees, you glimpse at a stag antlers branching like a king's crown, bounding with a grace that mocks your clumsy charge. The hunters split, fanning out to hem it in, but the stag's a trickster, darting back, vanishing then reappearing like some forest spirit. Disaster strikes mid-gallop. You're leaning into the chase when a flock of pheasants explodes from the bush's wings, flapping feathers everywhere. You yelp, jerking the reins, and your horse skids, nearly tossing you into the dirt. The Lord's son, a smug twig of a boy, cackles as he rides past. Nice one. Trying to hunt birds with your face, you grit your teeth, cheeks burning, and urge your horse on, vowing to never live that down. The chase heats up. The stag's tiring. You can see its flanks heaving, steam rising from its hide. Then a root snags your boot, and down you go splashing into a puddle with a wet thwack. Mud coats your tunic, cold and slimy, and a grizzled hunter nearby snorts. "First mud, then glory," he says, hauling you up. You laugh despite yourself, wiping filth from your eyes as the hounds close in. They've got it now. The stag's cornered, panting hard. You notch an arrow, fingers trembling, and draw the bowstring taut. The world shrinks, just you, the creak of the bow, the stag's wide dark eyes. You let fly. The arrow sings, burying itself deep, and the stag crumples with a heavy thud. A ragged cheer rises, and you slump breathless, a grin tugging at your lips. Sure, the hounds did the heavy lifting, but that shot yours. Take the credit while it's hot. The hunters gather one, kneeling to murmur a prayer over the killa quiet. Thank you to whatever spirits watch these woods. Here's a weird twist, though some swore by lucky charms to tip the odds. A wiry tracker sidles over, pressing a rabbit's foot into your palm. Rub it before the next shot. he whispers, eyes glinting. Keeps the wind in your favor. You arch a brow, but tuck it away. Superstition or not, it's a nice trinket. And who are you to argue with a man who smells like he's wrestled a bear? The messy part comes next. The hunter's unsheathed knives slicing into the stag with practiced ease. Blood pools on the leaves, sharp and metallic, and your stomach does a lazy flip. It's not pretty, but it's a reminder that this thrill has teeth. You watch, caught between awe and unease, as they carve up the prize meat for the table antlers for the hall. On the ride back, a question nags at you. Who else hunted like this? The men dominate today's pack, but did women ever join in? Historians can't agree. Some point to noble women riding out bow in hand or cheering from horseback, part of the action. Others insist it was a man's game with ladies sidelined to castles and needlework. No one's dug up a definitive answer. It's a scholarly standoff, and you're left wondering as the castle looms ahead. You tromp through the gates, the stag slung across a horse, its antlers swaying like a banner. The hall's alive with noise, servants bustling fire spitting in the hearth. You collapse onto a bench leg screaming and dig into the feast. Roasted venison hits your plate, juicy and fragrant, with thyme paired with a horn of ale that washes away the day's grit. The Lord's booming tales fill the air, and you lean back, savoring the glow of victory. Then a third joke lands. The cocky son brags about his aim only to nick his own saddle mid-hunt. Shot the horse. Instead, someone jeers, and the hall erupts. As the night deepens, talk turns to a tournament on the horizon, a grand joust, knights thundering down the lists, lances gleaming. You catch the buzz armor, clanking crowds, roaring, glory up for grabs. It's a different beast from the hunt, all polish and pageantry, but the spark's the same. You sip your ale ears, perked, already itching to see it unfold. The fire's embers glow soft, and the hall's chatter lulls you into a cozy haze. But your mind's drifting to what's next, the joust. Knights and shining plate horses snorting steam, lances poised to shatter or soar its danger, dressed up in finery. A spectacle that promises bruises and bragging rights. What kind of mad soul charges headlong into that? And what's it feel like to stand there, pulse hammering, as the crowd holds its breath? Rest easy for now, because soon we're tumbling into the dust and dazzle of the tournament. You wake to the blare of trumpets, their sharp notes slicing through the morning air. Your head's still fuzzy from last night's feast, too much ale, too many tales of stags and hunts, but the buzz about today's jousting tournament yanks you out of bed. You throw on your clothes, the coarse fabric scratching your skin, and stumble out into the courtyard. The path to the tournament grounds hums with life, a stream of people, all flowing the same way. Vendors hawk roasted chestnuts, their warm, nutty scent curling through the crisp air, mingling with the tang of wood smoke. You snag a handful, shells crackling as you munch and let the crowd carry you forward. The tournament field bursts into view, a chaotic splash of color and sound. Banners snap in the breeze, reds and golds shouting against the pale sky. The stands groan under the weight of spectators, nobles in velvet, peasants in patched wool, all elbow to elbow, buzzing with anticipation. You wedge yourself between a burly blacksmith who grunts a gravelly mornin' and a chatty merchant who dives into a story about last year's tournament. Sir Reginald nearly skewered himself with his own lance. He chuckles, and you smirk, picturing the flailing knight. A gust of wind snatches the merchant's hat, sending it tumbling onto the field. He leaps up, hollering, "My hat, my lucky hat!" A squire darts out, scooping it up with a cheeky grin. "Hold it tighter." "Sir, the wind's a trickier foe than the knights today," he quips, tossing it back. The crowd roars with laughter, and the merchant, blushing, ties it down with a string. You settle in the wooden bench, creaking beneath you, the air thick with excitement. The first knights ride in armor gleaming like molten silver in the sunlight. They're walking fortresses, plates etched with swirling vines, or studded with gemstones that wink like tiny stars. You can't help but wonder how they move under all that, or how many cows they sold to afford it. Their horses prance draped in caparisons that match their riders' colors, snorting clouds of steam into the chilly air. The herald's voice cuts through the din, announcing the first match, and the knights line up at opposite ends of the lists. The crowd falls silent, a held breath, rippling through the stands. Visors snap down, lances grip tight, and then thunder. They charge, hooves pounding the earth, a storm of muscle and metal. The crash is bone-rattling. Lances shatter, shards spin through the air, and one knight hits the ground with a clang that echoes in your ribs. Cheers and groans explode around you, bets won or lost in a split second. Match after match rolls by, each one a jolt to your senses. Some knights glide like they're waltzing with their horses, all grace and precision. Others are pure force, smashing through opponents like a battering ram. It's a mix of martial skill and pure theater, and you're hooked. Between rounds, squires bustle about, adjusting armor, swapping lances, murmuring pep talks. Curious, you slip down to the knight's area during a break. A freckled squire struggles with a breastplate, and you lend a hand, heaving it onto the knight's chest. The knight nods, visor down, and the squire mutters, "Sir Geoffrey's a handful, wants his armor polished to a mirror shine even for practice." You grin, thinking of modern divas demanding perfect lighting. Back in the stands, the final match looms. Sir William and Sir Edward, both legends with scars to prove it, face off. The air crackles, bets double, even the nobles perch on the edge of their seats. They charge, lances leveled, and the impact is apocalyptic, both knights catapulted from their saddles. They scramble up, swords flashing, and the crowd surges to its feet, roaring. Steel clashes a fierce ballet until Sir William knocks Sir Edward's blade aside. Edward yields, and William struts a victory lap, waving to the masses. You clap until your palms burn, grinning like an idiot. As the dust settles, lutes and drums hum in the distance, their notes threading through the fading cheers. People drift toward the sound, the day's tension melting into something lighter, livelier. You feel a spark of curiosity. What kind of music got medieval toes tapping? How did they shake off a day of splintered lances and bruised egos? But that's a tale for later. For now, you linger, replaying the joust in your mind. Jousting wasn't just a flashy show, it was a knight's gym, a proving ground for war, and a chance to strut their stuff. Skill sharpening, prestige grabbing, maybe even a wink at a lady in the stand sit had it all. You spot a cluster of women, giggling and pointing at Sir William, fluttering their kerchiefs. Courtly love, medieval style. Think of it as posting a heart eyes emoji under your crush's latest win. But here's a puzzle historians still bicker over: was jousting more sport or serious combat prep? By the late Middle Ages, some say it was all pomp and ceremony, less about bloodshed and more about bragging rights. Others swear it stayed a gritty rehearsal for battle. The truth's murky, probably a bit of both depending on the year and the kingdom. You shrug it off, happy to have front row seats to the chaos. The music swells, and you glimpse couples pairing up on the village green, their steps quick and strange. You're tempted to join, to dip your toes into another medieval delight, but your legs feel like lead, and sleep tugs at your eyelids. You find a soft patch under a tree, the grass cool against your back, and let the festival's humlute's laughter, the clink of cups, scare you off to a gentle doze. The tournament's dust fades, but the night's alive with new rhythms. Minstrels pluck lutes, drums thump a heartbeat, and the green becomes a swirl of motion and mirth. What dances made medieval souls soar? How did a simple tune bind peasants and lords alike? Rest now, because next you're stepping into a world where music and movement melt the day's cares away. You stir from your nap under the tree, the grass tickling your cheek as you blink awake. The distant clang of jousting armor has faded, replaced by a new sound, lively tune drifting through the air like a whisper on the wind. It's plucking at your curiosity, tugging you upright. You brush leaves from your tunic, feeling the earth beneath your feet, and let your gaze wander toward the village green. It's transformed, now no longer just a patch of trampled grass, but a glowing stage for the evening's revelry. Lanterns sway gently from poles, casting a warm, flickering light over the gathering crowd. You weave through the throng, drawn irresistibly to the heart of the merriment. There in the center, a circle of musicians holds court. Their fingers dance over strings and keys, coaxing out melodies that swirl around you. A lutist strums a jaunty rhythm, each note crisp and bright, while a flutist weaves in a trilling melody light as a breeze rustling through leaves. But it's the hurdy-gurdy that steals your attention, a bizarre, wonderful contraption with a crank and a wheel churning out a droning hum that anchors the whole ensemble. The player grins his arm, pumping with the enthusiasm of a man who knows he's wielding something utterly odd. It's like someone took a violin, a music box, and a dash of lunacy, then mashed them together into a medieval masterpiece. You can't look away. Music, you realize, is everywhere. Here it's the heartbeat of this world. From the echoing halls of castles to the smoky corners of peasant huts, it binds everyone together, a thread that doesn't care about rank or riches. It's as true as the stars above you, a fact so woven into life that it feels alive, pulsing through the night air and into your bones. The music swells, and the crowd shifts. Circles form lines, stretch out, and bodies begin to sway with the rhythm. You squint, trying to figure it out. Are these steps planned, or are they just making it up as they go? Historians love to bicker about this one. Some say medieval dances were rigid, all rules, and etiquette a proper little display of order. Others argue they were wild free-for-alls where folks let loose. Watching now, you see both a few dancers glide with the grace of practice, while others, like that lanky boy who just tripped over his own feet, look like they're inventing it on the spot. You smirk. Maybe it's not one or the other. Maybe it's the messy middle, like most things in life. Before you can overthink it, a rosy-cheeked woman grabs your hand. "Come on, don't be shy," she chirps, and suddenly you're in the thick of it, swept into the whirl. You try to copy the steps, but your feet betray you, landing squarely on the toes of a burly blacksmith. He grimaces, then laughs. "Easy there, friends. Ave the stomping for the grapes at harvest." The crowd snickers, and heat creeps up your neck, but the music's too catchy to let you sulk for long. You'd noticed earlier how the dances shift like moods. There's the carol, a gentle circle where hands link and voices rise in unison, soft and soothing. Then the estampe kicks in, all stomping feet and spinning partners, a burst of energy that makes your heart race just watching. Each one's different, some solemn, some silly, and you marvel at how these folks switch between them like it's nothing. Between the dances, the musicians strike up songs bawdy tavern jigs that make you grin, then haunting ballads that tug at something deeper. One tune so catchy you can't resist, joining in, belting out what you swear as the night rode forth. Giggles ripple around you, and you catch the real line, the night snored north. The blacksmith claps your shoulder. Close enough, friend? Maybe listen first next time you laugh, shaking your head at your own folly. Your legs finally beg for mercy, and you slip to the edge of the green breath, puffing out in the cool night air. The dancers spin on their shadows, stretching long under the lanterns. A young couple sneaks a kiss behind a tree, and you feel the warmth of this place wrap around you, soft and comforting, like a lullaby you didn't know you needed. Then a fiddler, cheeky little troublemaker, decides to spice things up. He launches into a tune so fast it's a blur, his bow practically smoking. Even the best dancers falter feet, tangling skirts flying, and the green dissolves into joyful chaos. He cackles, egging them on, until the other musicians pile in, turning his prank into a wild, rollicking finish. You clap along, grinning so wide your cheeks ache. The pace slows, and you let your mind wander back to those dances. Were they just fun? Or something more? Scholars dig into this twosome. Say they mirrored the strict lines of society, all bows and curtsies. Others reckon they were a chance to break free, to feel alive. Here, with the elegance and the exuberance mixing before your eyes, you figure it's both a dance of rules and release a snapshot of this world's push and pull. The instruments quiet, and a hush blankets the green. A figure steps from the shadows, hood up, face a mystery. The crowd steals anticipation, buzzing like static. The storyteller's voice unfurls low and hypnotic, spinning a tale of heroes and dragons that seems to draw the stars closer. You lean in the music spell, giving way to a new kind of magic. The fiddler's last notes hang in the air, faint as a memory. You hate to see the music go, it's held you like a dream you don't want to wake from. But the night's not done with you yet, and as the storyteller's words take root, you settle in, ready for the next chapter. The music fades, but the storyteller's voice rises curling through the dark like smoke. What tales did these medieval souls cling to? How did their stories shape the shadows of their minds? Rest now, dear listener, for soon you'll sit by the fire where words paint worlds and the past breathes anew. The last notes of the fiddler's tune still hum in your ears as you drift away from the village green, the laughter and stomping feet fading into a soft murmur behind you. A cool breeze nudges you forward, tugging at your cloak, carrying the sharp scent of wood smoke and a faint whiff of something spiced mulled wine perhaps, or roasted chestnuts sizzling somewhere nearby. You follow the glow of a bonfire at the village's edge, its flames clawing at the night sky, casting long, flickering shadows that dance across the muddy ground. The air here feels heavier alive, with the weight of tales, yet untold, swirling in the smoke like restless spirits. You settle onto a rough-hewn bench, the wood still prickly with bark, and let your shoulders slump. The fire crackles and spits, sending embers spiraling upward, like tiny fleeting stars. Villagers cluster around you, their faces softened by the golden glowsome, wide-eyed with excitement. Others heavy-lidded from a long day, all drawn to the same ancient ritual. A hush blankets the crowd, broken only by the fires, pops, and the distant lonely hoot of an owl. Then from the shadows, a figure emerges, an old bard, his face a weathered tapestry of lines and scars, his eyes twinkling with a mix of mischief and melancholy. His patchwork cloak, stitched with a dozen faded colors, rustles as he moves, And when he speaks, his voice is a low, gravelly rumble, like stones grinding together deep underground. Gather round, friends, he growls, spreading his arms wide. For tonight we walk with heroes, barter with devils, and dance with ghosts. The crowd leans in, and you feel it, to that electric shiver of anticipation, the pull of something bigger than yourself. Storytelling isn't just a pastime here, it's the heartbeat of this medieval world. With books scarce and literacy a luxury for monks and nobles, these tales are everything: history lessons, moral guides, and entertainment, all tangled up in one smoky thread. It's a plain historical truth. Oral storytelling stitched these communities together, keeping the past alive when parchment and ink were out of reach. The bard dives into his first Talia rollicking legend of a knight who swore to slay a dragon, only to discover mid-battle that the beast was the maiden's guard dog, and the real villain was a scheming duke with a terrible mustache. The crowd snickers at the twist, and you catch yourself smirking too. It's a story you've half heard before, maybe in a different village with a different dragon, but the bard's gravelly flair makes it fresh. He shifts gears, spinning a yarn about a local lad who outsmarted a gang of trolls with a riddle. What has roots nobody sees is taller than trees. The trolls bumble and grumble, scratching their lumpy heads, and you mutter the answer under your breath. A mountain just as the hero declares it. The bard shoots you a sly wink like he's in on the secret. Someone presses a mug of spiced ale into your hands and you take a sip. It's warm, sweet, with a sharp bite of cinnamon and cloves that lingers on your tongue. The fire's heat washes over your face, thawing the chill from your bones, and you sink deeper into the moment. The bard's voice weaves pictures so vivid you can almost touch them. The knight's dented armor, glinting in the sun. The troll's beady eyes, glowing in the dark. The maiden's sly grin as she pats her dragon's scaly head. It's better than any book, because your mind fills in the colors and shadows, making it yours. His tone dips, growing hushed and eerie, and he tells of a traveler who wandered too close to a fairy ring, those perfect circles of mushrooms that dot the woods. One step in, and he's whisked to a feast that stretches 100 years. He returns, blinking to find his village crumbled to dust, his family long gone. A chill prickles your skin, and you glance at the black trees beyond the firelight, half expecting a shimmer of otherworldly eyes. Here's a strange little fact. Some medieval folks believed these tales held real magic, that speaking of fairies or spirits could call them forth or chase them away. Is the bard just entertaining, or is he whispering a warning? You're not sure. And that's half the fun. The fire snaps, showering sparks into the sky, and the bard lets the silence hang heavy and thick. You scan the crowd. Some faces, rapt others, drooping, a few kids curled up in their parents' laps, snoring softly. It's a warm little world here, this circle of light and words pushing back the vast, cold night. You lean back the bench, groaning under you, and let the next tale roll over you like a wave. This one's lighter. A cunning fox tricks a greedy lord out of his gold, swapping it for a sack of turnips. A fair trade, the fox quips for a man with no taste. Laughter bubbles up bright and loose, and you join in, the sound warming you as much as the ale. But the mood shifts again, and the bard's voice drops to a whisper for a ghost story. It's about a miller, betrayed by his brother, whose spirit haunts the old water wheel, creaking out his pleas for justice. The wind picks up, rattling the branches, and you tug your cloak tighter, ears straining for phantom footsteps. Scholars still bicker over these tales. How much is real, how much is fantasy? Historians pore over scraps of vellum, debating whether that night or this ghost echoes some long-lost truth, warped by centuries of retelling. But here by the fire, it's not about facts. It's about the shiver down your spine, the way the story lives in the telling. The night stretches on, and the bard's tales soften, turning gentle and dreamlike. He speaks of a shepherd who chased a star to a hidden valley where the grass stayed green year-round and the sheep never wandered. It's a lullaby spun into words, and your eyelids grow heavy, the fires glow, smudging into a hazy blur. His voice fades, melting into the crackle of the logs, and you drift into a half-sleep where heroes and spirits mingle in your mind. Then a new sound cuts through distant voices, rhythmic and strange, paired with the rustle of fabric and the clink of bells. You blink awake, curiosity tugging you upright. The crowd stirs some shuffling toward the village square, where lanterns flicker like fireflies. Whispers ripple back a play, a performance under the stars. Your pulse quickens. What did these medieval folks dream up for their stages? How did they turn their fireside tales into something wilder? The bard's voice lingers in your ears, but the promise of theater pulls you forward a thread to follow into the next night. The fire dims to embers, and the bard's gravelly tales dissolve into the dark. But the village hums with new life lanterns, sway voices chant, and the square beckons with the raw energy of a play about to unfold. What stories did they choose to bring to life? How did they conjure gods and demons on a rickety stage? Drift off. Now, dear listener, for soon you'll tumble into the chaos and wonder of medieval theater, where the sacred meets the absurd under a starry sky. The fire's embers are fading now, their soft pop and hiss giving way to the cool night air. You feel it, a gentle pull, like a thread tugging you away from the bard's tales and toward the village square. Lanterns flicker overhead, swaying lazily in the breeze, painting the cobblestones with pools of golden light. The air carries a mingle of scents: wood smoke, roasted meat, maybe a hint of spiced wine if you're lucky. Around you, the crowd's chatter hums low, a soothing buzz that wraps you up like a blanket. Everyone's heading the same way, drawn to the promise of something new. You reach the square and see it a rickety stage thrown together with wooden planks and some tattered fabric flapping in the wind. It's not fancy, let's be real. It's barely holding up, but there's a charm to it, a quiet magic that sparks your curiosity. The crowd jostles for spots, elbows nudging and feet shuffling, but you slip in near the front. Close enough to catch the actors' expressions, far enough to avoid getting roped into the performance. You're here to watch, not to start Hank goodness. A blare cuts through the murmur strumpets, or at least the medieval version of them. It's more like two off-key horns and a drum thumped by an overeager kid, but it does the trick. The actors shuffle onto the stage draped in costumes that look like they've been stitched from hand-me-downs and market scraps. Bright colors clash with patched seams, and yet it works. It's scrappy, sure, but it's alive. Tonight's play, the story of Noah's Ark, a classic, even back then. You settle in as Noah stomps out a burly guy with a beard so fake it's practically winking at you. He's arguing with his wife, played by a lanky young man in a dress because, well, medieval gender rules were a thing. She's stubborn as a mule, arms crossed, refusing to believe a flood's coming. Rain. In this economy, she snaps, and the crowd loses it. Okay, she didn't say that, but you can almost hear the anachronism sneaking in. You chuckle anyway. the laughter rippling through the square like a shared secret. The plot rolls on, and then disaster. One of Noah's sons, hauling a prop sheep, stuffed thankfully trips over its lumpy wool and nearly tumbles off the stage. The crowd gasps, then giggles as he scrambles up, flashing a sheepish grin. Well, that's one way to herd the flock, someone mutters behind you, and you stifle another laugh. These little hiccups, they're gold. Pure unscripted medieval chaos. The flood scene's next, and you've got to hand it to them. They get creative. Blue fabric ripples across the stage, waved by a couple of kids who are clearly having the time of their lives. The actors flail and swim, selling it with all they've got. It's not exactly high-tech, but it pulls you in. Then comes the dovey real one, probably a pigeon they nabbed from the coop. It flaps wildly, ignoring its cue, and lands on Noah's head instead of delivering the olive branch. The crowd roars, and Noah just sighs, like this happens every night. Maybe it does. Here's a weird little nugget. For you medieval theater, loved live animals. Sheep, goats, even horses sometimes trotted across these stages, turning plays into a glorious mess. Imagine the actors dodging hooves while reciting line stock about multitasking. Tonight's pigeon stunt, just another day in the drama. These plays weren't all fun and games, though. They had a job to do. Back then, most folks couldn't read, so mystery plays, like this one often put on by local guilds during festivals like Corpus Christi were, how they learned their Bible stories. Picture it, a whole village gathered, soaking up Noah's tale between bites of bread and swigs of ale. It's a solid historical fact. These performances were part entertainment, part Sunday school, all wrapped up in a communal bow. But here's where the eggheads butt heads. What were these plays really about? Some scholars swear they were all about teaching, every line a sermon, every prop a lesson. Others argue they were medieval blockbusters, more spectacle than scripture, meant to wow the crowd and keep them coming back. Was Noah's pigeon a holy symbol or just a cheap laugh? Maybe both. You decide. The play winds down, and the actors bow well, most of them. The pigeon guy's still brushing feathers off his tunic. The crowd claps and cheers, a warm wave of sound that washes over you. It's been a good night, little silly, a little sacred, and a lot of fun. People start drifting away, their voices softening into the dark. You catch whispers about tomorrow, a wrestling match at dawn, then archery by noon. Bet old Thomas'll break his nose again. Someone snickers, and you smile. Sounds like a day worth sticking around for. You head back to your spot, the night air brushing cool against your cheeks. The village quiets down, save for an owl's hoot and a dog's distant yap. You slide into bed, the straw mattress poking through the blanket, just enough to keep you grounded. Your mind drifts back to the play, the bickering, the tripping, the pigeon chaos. It's a soft blur now lulling you deeper. Sleep creeps in, and you wonder about tomorrow. Wrestling's bound to be a sweaty, dusty riot, big guys tossing each other around while the crowd eggs them on. In archery, sharp arrows, sharper bets. Will the best shot win, or will some wild card shake things up? You'll find out soon enough. For now, though, let the play's echoes carry you off. The laughter, the gasps, the flicker of lanterns, it all melts into the night. Close your eyes. The village square fades, and you're gone dreaming of arcs and arrows. You stir awake the straw mattress beneath you, prickling through the thin blanket, like a stubborn reminder of simpler times. The first rays of dawn sneak through the wooden shutters, casting a soft golden glow across the room. Outside, the village hums to life, Roosters crow their morning anthems. Carts creak under the weight of goods, and the faint clang of a blacksmith's hammer rings in the distance. But there's something more today, a buzz of excitement weaving through the air, tugging at your sleepy curiosity. You pull on your tunic lace, up your boots, and step into the crisp morning. The scent of fresh-baked bread drifts from a nearby oven, tangling with the earthy dampness of dew-soaked grass. Today's no ordinary day, something stirring, and you're about to find out what. Following the stream of villagers heading toward the outskirts, you arrive at a sprawling meadow. The grass is patchy, worn from countless feet, and the air carries a faint whiff of hay and sweat. Makeshift targets, straw bales with wobbly painted circles, stand proud across the field. A group of archers are already at it, their boughs creaking like old trees in the wind as they draw back the strings. Thwack! An arrow cuts through the air sharp and swift, burying itself with a satisfying thud into the target's heart. The archer, a wiry lad with a mop of hair that looks like it's never met a comb, flashes a grin as his mates slap his back. Archery's no mere game, here it's a lifeline. Here's a tidbit straight from the history books. In some parts of medieval England, men were required to practice archery every Sunday by law. The king needed sharp-eyed bowmen ready to defend the realm, and who could blame him? But today, it's less about war and more about glory. A burly man steps up, chest puffed out, boasting hell's split an arrow already lodged in the bullseye. He draws steady's releases, and the arrow veers wildly, lodging itself in a tree trunk instead. Guess he'll stick to splitting logs, he grumbles, scratching his beard as the crowd snickers. You smirk too. Archery's got a way of keeping egos in check. A little ways off, a rough circle of trampled dirt marks a different scene. Two men grapple in the center, shirtless and glistening with sweat, their grunts punctuating the air like a drumbeat. It's wrestling, raw, messy, and oh so medieval. The crowd's alive with it, shouting encouragements and jeers, coins clinking as bets fly back and forth. One wrestler's a giant, his beard, a tangled thicket, and he hoists his opponent over his shoulder like a sack of grain. The onlookers roar until the smaller man twists free hooks a leg and sends the giant sprawling into the dirt with a heavy thud. The underdog stands tall, arms raised, as the crowd explodes in cheers. Never bet against the scrappy one, a woman beside you mutters, pocketing her winnings with a sly wink. You nod, the dust settling around you like a gritty halo. Wrestling's no gentle sport, but it's got soul and a knack for surprises. Then there's the chaos of what they're calling a football game, though it's nothing like the polished matches you might imagine. A swarm of villagers, young boys, grizzled men, even a few daring women chase a lumpy leather-clad ball across the field. There are no teams, no rules, just a wild, joyous free-for-all. The ball itself is a quirky marvel stuffed with straw and wrapped in a pig's bladder of all things. Someone gives it a mighty kick, and it soars high before landing with a splat in a muddy puddle, splattering everyone nearby. Laughter ripples through the group, warm and unrestrained, and you can't help but smile. This isn't sport as you know it. It's pandemonium with a pulse. Scholars still bicker over what it all meant. Was it just reckless fun? Or did it toughen folks up for war? Or maybe settle village rivalries without swords? You're not sure, but watching them tumble and grin, mud-streaked and breathless, you'd wager it's mostly about the thrill. The sun climbs higher, warming your face as the day wears on. Your legs ache from standing, but the energy's contagious. You snag a meat pie from a vendor, flaky crust crumbling in your hands, savory filling, warming your belly, and munch contentedly as the sports wind down. The archers sling their bows over their shoulders, the wrestlers limp off nursing bruises, and the footballers trudge away, caked in mud, but still chuckling. The meadow quiets, but the village doesn't. Whispers swirl about a feast to honor the victors, and your stomach rumbles in agreement. The air grows thick with the scent of roasting meat venison, maybe, or pork mingling with the sweet tang of baking bread. You can almost taste the ale cool and frothy waiting to wash it all down. Following the crowd toward the village hall, you hear the first strains of a lute and the clatter of tables being set. The day's triumphs fade into the promise of night, and you're ready to sink into the revelry ahead. The meadow's clamor fades behind you, but the day's pulse still thrums in your veins. Arrows whistling, wrestlers tumbling, and that wild football chase replaying in your mind. Now, though your senses shift to something richer, something warmer, the feast awaiting you. Picture eatables sagging under heaps of roasted meats, golden-crusted pies, and flagons brimming with spiced wine. The air heavy with the scent of herbs, and the sound of laughter cups clinking in toasts. What did a medieval banquet really taste like, feel like? And what stories simmered beneath the surface of all that merriment? Drift off now, for soon you'll be right there, fork in hand, at the heart of a night where every bite and sip weaves its own tale. The sun dips low, painting the sky with streaks of orange and casting long shadows across the meadow. The day's sports archery contests wrestling matches, and that chaotic football free-for-all are winding down. Bruised but beaming wrestlers trade tales of their triumphs, while archers sling their bows over their shoulders, their quivers now empty. The air hums with a shifting energy, less wild and more expectant. Your nose catches it first, the rich, smoky scent of roasting meat wafting from the village hall. Your stomach growls in response, and you join the crowd, drifting toward the promise of a feast. Setting the scene. Inside the hall, it's a flurry of preparation. Long wooden tables stretch from wall to wall, draped in cloths, some plain and rough, others stitched with intricate patterns that hint at a wealthier hand. Servants dart about their arms laden with platters and pitchers. At the far end, a raised dais stands ready for the lord and his family, a perch from which they'll survey the night's revelry. You find a seat at one of the lower tables, rubbing shoulders with farmers, craftsmen, and a few rowdy lads still buzzing from the day's games. Before you, a curious sight trenchers. These aren't plates as you know them, but thick slabs of stale bread slightly hollowed out to hold whatever bounty comes your way. It's a medieval 2-for-1, eat your meal, then eat your dish. No fuss, no waste. You can't help but chuckle at the practicality. Who needs a dishwasher when your plate's this tasty? You mutter to yourself, earning a grin from the fellow beside you. The feast begins. The food arrives in waves, a parade of rustic splendor. First come platters of roasted boar, its skin crisp and glistening with fat, the aroma so heady you can almost taste it already. Bowls of pottage follow thick hearty stews of barley peas and whatever vegetables the season spared. Then there are pies, their golden crusts, puffed and flaky, hiding mysteries within. Could be pigeon, could be eel, could be something you'd rather not name. Medieval, surprise, you quip under your breath, digging in with cautious optimism. The flavors burst forth, hearty, rich, and spiced with something exotic, a nod to the medieval obsession with pepper and cloves. Ale sloshes into mugs passed hand to hand, and the room warms with every toast. Laughter erupts as tales of the day spill out a near-miss arrow that skewered a hat instead of a target, a wrestler who tripped over his own feet, a footballer who swears he scored though no one else saw it. The mood is loose convivial, a shared release after the day's exertions. Entertainment and hierarchy. It's not just about the food. Minstrels take up their posts, strumming lutes and piping melodies that weave through the chatter. A jester bounds in all bells and bravado, juggling apples with flair until one tumbles to the floor. Better at eating than tossing a voice calls and the crowd roars. He recovers with a wink and a spoon balanced on his nose only to drop it a moment later. Stick to the jests. Fool someone hollers and he bows theatrically, unfazed. Amid the merriment, the social order reveals itself. The Lord's table gleams with the choicest cuts, succulent boar-tender fowl, served first and with ceremony. Knights and lesser nobles sit a rung below their portions, generous, but not quite as grand. Down here, among the common folk, the fare is simpler, but plentiful. It's a structured world, etched into the seating plan, yet tonight feels different. The feast blurs those lines, if only a little as ale and laughter level the room. A scholarly debate. This brings up a question historians love to tussle over: what was the feast really about? Some argue it was a flex of power, the Lord flaunting his wealth by feeding the masses. Roast boar and rare spices don't come cheap after all. Others see it as a communal glue, a ritual to bind the village together, to share in abundance and goodwill. Why not both? You ponder this as you tear into a honey-drizzled pastry, its sweetness a perfect counterpoint to the savory chaos. Maybe it's showmanship, with a side of hearta, medieval win-win. The night deepens. The feast rolls on relentless. Servants haul out more fruits like apples and pears cheeses from mild to eye-wateringly sharp, and pastries that crumble at the touch. Your plate or trencher rather is a battlefield of flavors, and you're losing ground fast. The ale keeps flowing, and the stories grow wilder. A knight once wrestled a bear, they say. A maiden tamed a stallion with a glance. A farmer swears his turnip was cartwheel-sized. You smile knowing these are more fantasy than fact, but that's half the fun. As the night wears on, a pleasant heaviness settles in. The hall glows with warmth, voices softening into a contented hum. You lean back, eyes half closed, savoring the moment. The last crumbs vanish swept away by busy hands, and the crowd begins to thin. Stepping outside, the cool night air jolts you awake, stars winking overhead. You breathe deep, full and satisfied, the day's chaos now a memory, connecting to the next adventure. But the journey's not over. Whispers have been floating through the hall all night, talk of a pilgrimage tomorrow, a trek to a nearby shrine. It's a shift from feasting to reflection, from indulgence to purpose. What drives these medieval souls to set out on such a path? Faith, perhaps, or a craving for something more? You're intrigued, your curiosity tugging you toward the road. For now, you let the feast's glow linger, but tomorrow you'll don your cloak and join the pilgrims eager to uncover the stories that await. The feast fades into the night, but a new chapter beckons. Tomorrow you'll step onto a winding path where dusty trails and murmured prayers intertwine. Is it solemn duty or a spirited jaunt with fellow travelers that awaits rest up? For soon you'll walk among the faithful, each mile promising a tale of its own. The first light of dawn creeps over the horizon, painting the sky in soft hues of pink and gold. You stir from your slumber, the straw mattress beneath you, crackling faintly as you shift. It's a humble bed, but it cradled you through a restful night. Today feels different. There's a quiet hum of purpose in your bones. You stretch, easing the ache from yesterday's labors, and rise to meet the day. Today, you set out on a pilgrimage. You dress swiftly, tugging on sturdy woolen clothes and lacing up your worn boots. The air outside is crisp, laced with the scent of dew and the faint tang of wood smoke from dying hearth fires. The village is waking, but your path leads beyond its familiar edges. At the outskirts, a small crowd of pilgrims has gathered their breath, rising in fleeting clouds against the chill. Their faces reflect a blend of solemnity and eager anticipation, mirroring the stirrings in your own heart. You step into the group, exchanging nods with those you know and quiet greetings with strangers. A monk stands among them, his robes threadbare but neatly patched lips moving in silent prayer. Nearby, a merchant fusses with his pack, his voice already spinning tales of far-off markets to a weary peasant who nods politely. A noble woman lingers at the edge, her fine cloak a splash of color against the muted tones of the others, her gaze distant yet calm. An elderly priest, his face etched with years of wisdom and weather, steps forward. He raises his staff, its tip worn smooth by countless journeys. Let us begin our pilgrimage in the name of faith and fellowship, he says, his voice steady and warm. With that, you fall into step behind him, the group moving as one, along a path that snakes through dense forests, climbs gentle hills, and skirts the edges of babbling brooks. The way is not easy. Roots twist up from the earth, and loose stones shift underfoot, testing your balance. Yet there's a rhythm to it. The steady crunch of leaves and twigs beneath your boots becomes a kind of chant, lulling your mind into a meditative calm. From somewhere far off, the deep tolling of church bells rolls through the air, marking time in a world that feels both vast and intimate. The scent of damp earth and moss rises with every step, grounding you in the moment. As the miles unfurl, the pilgrims begin to talk. The merchant's voice carries weaving stories of silks and spices from lands you've only dreamed of. The monk, pausing his prayers, speaks softly of miraculous sight, restored fevers broken at the shrines he's visited. A young peasant girl, her eyes bright, despite the weight of her purpose, shares that she walks for her mother who lies ill back home. You find yourself opening up to, perhaps admitting a hope for forgiveness, a plea for healing, or simply a longing to escape the grind of daily life for something greater. The mood lifts when the merchant, caught up in his own tale, stumbles over a gnarled root and nearly pitches into a muddy ditch. Laughter ripples through the group, and the monk claps him on the shoulder with a grin. Take heed, friend. He teases salvations. Path has its pitfalls. The merchant brushes off his cloak with a mock scowl, but his eyes twinkle. These small moments knit you closer, strangers becoming companions through shared steps and stories. By midday, you reach a wayside shrine, a simple stone cross-draped with wildflowers left by those who passed before. The priest calls a halt, and you gather round as he murmurs a prayer. The words wash over you, and for a moment you close your eyes, letting the stillness settle in. Later, as the sun dips low, you sit with the others around a crackling fire. Someone passes around a loaf of coarse bread. Another shares a wedge of cheese, and a flask of thin wine makes the rounds. Under a sky pricked with stars, the simple meal feels like a banquet warmed by the glow of fellowship. Days blend into one another, each step bringing you closer to your goal. At last, it rises before you, a grand cathedral, its spires clawing at the heavens, a monument to faith carved in stone. The sight steals your breath, arches soar, their edges traced with intricate carvings, while stained glass windows shimmer like captured rainbows. Inside, the air hums with the weight of incense and centuries of whispered prayers. You approach the relics, a splinter of the true cross, a saint's weathered bone, displayed in gilded cases, and a hush falls over you. Kneeling, you feel the journey's burdens lift, replaced by a quiet awe. The destination is a triumph, but the pilgrimage is more than that. It's the path itself, the blisters and laughter, the prayers and silences that has reshaped you. As you prepare to turn back, you tuck away tokens of the journey, a small wooden icon, a vial of holy water blessed at the shrine. More than these, you carry stories of the people you've met, the moments you've shared, and a spirit renewed by the road. That night, you settle into the pilgrim's hostel, the murmur of voices filling the dim room. Your mind drifts, replaying the journey. Along the way, you caught snatches of tales that linger now, whispers of knights swearing oaths to fair ladies of love, bound by honor and sung in verse. As you glance across the crowded space, your eyes snag on a figure in the shadows. A knight, perhaps his armor glinting faintly, or a lady, her silhouette graceful against the flickering light. Their presence stirs something in you, a hint of mystery and longing that promises more to come. The night wraps around you still and deep, but your pulse quickens with the thought of tomorrow. For now, you let the echoes of the day prayers, laughter, the creak of the road carry you into sleep. The pilgrimage has etched its lessons into your soul, but as sleep pulls you under, those overheard tales of chivalry and devotion dance in your mind. What secrets lie in the hearts of knights and ladies? How do they weave passion and honor into something eternal? Rest well, for soon you'll step into a world where a glance can spark a poem and a vow can change a life. You are a young squire in a medieval castle, and the world around you hums with a quiet magic tonight. The sun dips low, painting the stone walls with a golden glow, while a gentle breeze carries the scent of roses and lavender from the gardens below. Somewhere in the courtyard, a lute strums a soft melody, its notes weaving through the air like a whispered secret. You've got a problem, though, a big one. You're head over heels for a lady named Isabella, and she's so far out of your league it's almost laughable. Almost. For weeks, you've watched her from afar, her kind smile, the way her silk gown rustles as she glides through the halls. She's the stuff of legends, like Guinevere or Isolde, and you're just a squire, barely trusted with a sword, let alone a lady's heart. But tonight, you're inspired. You've heard the bards sing of courtly love, this grand poetic game where knights and ladies trade verses and longing looks, all while keeping it hush-hush. No TV, no texting, just pure old-school romance. And you're determined to give it a shot. You sit by candlelight, quill in hand, scratching out a poem on a scrap of parchment. It's harder than it looks. Your first attempt compares her eyes to two pools of mud, which, doesn't quite scream swoon-worthy. You crumple that one up fast and try again, landing on something about stars and moonlight. It's cheesy, sure, but it's honest, and you figure that's what counts. Now the tricky part, getting it to her without anyone noticing. The castle buzzes with its usual rhythm. Servants chatter as they haul trays of roasted meats and spiced pies to the great hall for tonight's feast. Swords clang faintly from the training yard where knights spar under the fading light. You slip through a side corridor, parchment, tucked close, aiming for the library, Isabella's favorite haunt. She's always there, nose in a book of Arthurian tales, lost in stories of chivalry. If you can hide your poem between those pages, she'll find it, and no one else will be the wiser. But fate's got a sense of humor. Halfway there, you nearly crash into Sir Geoffrey, an older knight with a grizzled beard and a twinkle in his eye. He's been your mentor since you tripped over your own feet in training, and he's got a knack for seeing right through you. "Evening, lad," he grunts, clapping your shoulder. You look like a hare caught in a snare. "What's got you twitching?" You mumble something about drills, but he's not buying it. "It's a lass, isn't it, Isabella, id wager?" Your jaw drops, and he chuckles low and warm. "Don't fret, I won't tell." I was young once, too. Wrote a poem for a lady myself, called her eyes stars of the constellation, but I botched the spelling. Turned into constipation. She didn't speak to me for a month. You laugh despite yourself, the knot in your chest loosening. So what do? You ask, desperate for wisdom. Sir Geoffrey leans in, voice dropping. "Courtly love's a tricky beast. Some say it's just bard-spun nonsense, but I reckon there's truth in it. It's about devotion, showing her your heart through words and deeds, no strings attached. Be sincere, be sly, and don't get caught." He winks, sending you off with a pat. His words echo as you reach the library. It's empty, thank goodness, lit only by flickering candles. You find her book a worn tome of knightly quests, and slide your poem inside, heart-pounding. But as you turn to leave, disaster strikes. The parchment slips from your shaky hands, fluttering to the floor. Before you can snatch it, the castle cook barges in, flour-dusted and squinting at the fallen note. "What's this?" he mutters, scooping it up. "Thy lips are like cherries. Thy hair like spun gold, a recipe, is it? Sounds tasty, but where's the meat?" You lunge forward, face burning. "It's mine, not food just." "A letter." He shrugs, handing it back with a grunt. "Keep it out of my kitchen, lad." You nod, vowing to be more careful next time. Round 2 goes smoother. You tuck the poem back into the book, double-checking it's secure, and slip out unnoticed. The next day, you're a wreck. Every glance from Isabella could mean she's found it, or worse, ignored it. You spot her in the gardens at dusk, reading that same book. Your breath catches as she looks up, meeting your eyes. Then a miracle. She smiles, a tiny secret curve of her lips, and nods. She knows. She sees you. And in this game of courtly love, that's everything. Days pass in a blur of stolen moments. You leave more poems in her sewing basket under a candlestick, and sometimes you find her replies, elegant lines praising your courage, urging you to be true. It's a dance, subtle and thrilling, like a melody only you two can hear. One evening, you're both in the great hall, marveling at a new tapestry unveiled for the Lord's guests. Its threads shimmer with scenes of dragons and heroes, every stitch a testament to the weaver's skill. "Isn't it beautiful?" Isabella murmurs, her voice soft, as the lute still playing somewhere distant. The care they put into it, it's like poetry in cloth. You nod, struck by how her eyes light up, and feel a bond beyond the romance. It's about the beauty you both admire, the artistry that fills this world. As you wander the castle, you start noticing the craftsmen more, the carvers shaping wood, the embroiderers stitching tales into fabric. There's a quiet joy in their work, a pride you can almost touch. And as you drift off each night, lulled by the memory of Isabella's smile and that lute's gentle tune, your mind wanders to those skilled hands. What drives them to create such wonders? Is it duty, passion, or something deeper? Tomorrow, you'll step into their world and uncover the magic of craft and creation. For now, though, let the castle fade into dreams, sweet starry dreams of poems and possibilities. The castle's heavy stone walls are a distant memory now, their tapestries and whispered tales fading as you step into the brisk air of a medieval town. You can still picture that grand woven scene nights and ladies stitched in vibrant threads, but it sparked a question: who made it? Whose hands turned wool and dye into art? Today you're leaving the pomp of the castle behind for something humbler, something real. You're heading into the heart of craft and creation, where the air buzzes with the clink of tools and the murmur of focused work. The cobblestone streets greet you with a chorus of sounds: hooves clatter, a hammer strikes iron, and a loom thumps somewhere nearby. It's a living, breathing place. This town, merchants hawk their wares, kids dart between carts, and the scent of wood smoke mingles with fresh bread. You take it all in, letting the energy pull you along until you spot a carpenter shop, its door propped open like an invitation. Inside, the air's thick with the smell of pine and sawdust. A broad-shouldered man hunches over a workbench, his chisel biting into a slab of oak. He's shaping a chair, and you can't look away. Each curl of wood that falls feels like a secret being revealed. The tools are simple, worn smooth from years of use, but in his hands they're alive. "What do you want?" he mutters, barely glancing up, just watching you reply. And he grunts, a flicker of a smirk, tugging at his lips. Takes time, this. Not for the impatient. You nod, mesmerized by the rhythm, tap, scrape, tap. It's hypnotic like a lullaby carved in wood. Here's a nugget of history to chew on. Medieval craftsmen like him weren't lone wolves. They belonged to guilds. Think of them as the bouncers of the craft world, keeping standards high and secrets close. Want to join? You'd start as an apprentice, sweeping floors and fetching water for years before you touched a tool. Then as a journeyman, you'd roam, learning from masters across towns. Finally, if you proved your worth, you'd become a master yourself, with a shop and a say in the guild. It was a grind, but it meant that chair you're ogling wasn't slapped together by some amateur. Quality mattered. You leave the carpenter to his trance and drift toward a weaver's studio. A woman sits at a loom, her fingers threading yarn like she's playing an instrument. The loom's a tangle of wood and string. But she moves with grace, coaxing a pattern into being. This one's for the church, she says, her voice soft over the thump-thump of the shuttle. Saints and angels all in blue. You peer at the cloth, sure enough, a winged figure's taking shape. It's not castle-level fancy, but it's got soul. How long, you ask? She chuckles. Weeks, but it's worth it. You believe her. There's love in every thread. That's the thing about these artisans. They're not just churning out stuff. There's pride here, a quiet thrill in shaping something that'll outlast them. And get this, some thought. Their tools had a mind of their own. A chisel that slipped too often. Cursed, obviously. A loom that never snagged, blessed by some saint or spirit. You glance at the weaver's steady hands. Maybe she's got a charm hidden in that apron. Scholars, of course, can't agree on why they did it. Was it art, a chance to flex their creativity? Or just survival, make a chair, get paid, don't starve? You watch the weavers yarn dance and think probably both. A chair's a chair, sure, but why not make it pretty? Life's too short for ugly furniture. Still, you're not here to settle the debate, just to bask in the glow of their work. The sun's high now, warming your shoulders as you step back into the street. The town's a whirlwind of noise and life, but you're craving something calmer. You follow a dirt path out of town where the cobblestones fade and the air turns earthy. Soon you're in the wood stall pines stretching overhead, their needles crunching underfoot. This is where it all starts: trees for the carpenter wool from sheep, grazing nearby ore buried deep for the blacksmith. Nature's the silent partner in every workshop. You settle on a mossy log, the forest humming around you birds, chirping leaves, rustling a stream, gurgling somewhere close. It's a world away from the town's clamor, and you let it sink in. Imagine spending your days here, gathering what you need, then shaping it into something useful. Your carpentry skills might be shaky, okay, non-existent, but the idea's tempting. There's a piece in it, a rhythm older than any guild. As afternoon bleeds into evening, you head back toward town, but you don't stop there. Instead, you veer to a meadow just beyond the gates, where the grass rolls out like a green sea. The sky's turning gold, then violet, and you find a spot to lie back, the earth cool beneath you. Around you, folks settle, in kids, laugh, chasing fireflies, while others spread blankets for a late supper. You stretch out alone with your thoughts and watch the stars prick through the dusk. The day replays in your mind the carpenter's steady hands, the weaver's patient weave the forest's quiet gifts. It's not the castle's drama, but it's got its own pulla-grounded, tactile kind of magic. As your eyes grow heavy, you wonder, what did these medieval folks see in these stars? Did they dream big, or just pray for rain? Did they tell stories, or collapse exhausted from a day of making you'll dig into that soon? For now, the meadow cradles you, the night sky, a soft blanket. Sleep tight, traveler, dream of looms and chisels. The stars twinkle above, a vast map of light over the meadow's hush. You're drifting off, but your mind's already wandering past the town beyond the woods into the wild heart of nature. What did medieval people find out there in the forests and rivers and endless skies? Was it a refuge, a challenge, or something they couldn't quite name rest? Now, because next time, you're stepping into nature's playground, where every breeze and branch has a tale to tell. Sweet dreams until then. You leave the meadow behind, the soft buzz of the town fading as you step into the woods. The air shifts cooler, crisper, laced with the earthy tang of moss and pine. Sunlight sneaks through the branches, painting the forest floor with golden patches that flicker like a medieval disco. It's quieter here, the kind of quiet that makes you exhale and forget the chaos of the day. You follow a faint path, twigs snapping underfoot, until you hear it, the cheerful gurgle of a stream. Pushing through some bushes, watch that thorn you stumble into a clearing by the water's edge. The river winks at you in the sunlight, all sparkly and inviting. You plop down on a smooth rock kick off your shoes and dip your toes in. Cold, yes, but refreshing. It's the medieval version of a spa day, minus the overpriced cucumber water. Nature wasn't just a pretty backdrop for these folks. It was their playground, their grocery store, their everything, hunting and fishing. Sure, they kept you fed, but they were also prime excuses to hang out. Picture it, a gang of hunters stalking through these woods boughs, in hand, trading jabs and boasts as they track a deer. Or a family by the river lines, in the water, arguing over who gets the last piece of bread, while the fish play hard to get. It's survival, with a side of socializing, multitasking at its finest. Now here's a weird one for you. Medieval fishermen had their own little superstitions to reel in the big catch. Some swore by muttering a quick prayer to St. Petery, know the fisherman's VIP saint, while others clung to a lucky charm like a pebble or a knotted bit of string. Did it work? Who knows? But it's cute. They thought a rock could sweet-talk a trout into biting. Of course, historians can't agree on how much fun these people actually had. Some argue medieval life was all work, no play dawn to dusk drudgery, with barely a breather. Others say, hold up, what about all those holy days? With festivals and feast days galore, maybe they had more chill time than your average 9 to 5 warrior today. Were they secretly the kings of work-life balance? Scholars are still duking it out, but you'd like to think they squeezed in some forest frolics between chores. Back to your riverside vibe. You figure why not fish like it's 1350? No high-tech gear, just a line, a hook and a worm you wrestle from the dirt. You toss it in, watching the ripples spread and settle in to wait. The water's gentle pull is hypnotic, like nature's own ASMR. After a bit, you feel a tug score. You yank up a tiny fish, its scales flashing like a medieval bling flex. It's no record breaker, but the thrill, that's the real catch. The sun's still high, so you wander deeper into the woods. The trees close and the light softens, and then bam, you find a hidden glade. It's picnic central. You spread out a blanket, unpack some bread cheese and a splash of ale and dig in. The bread's a little tough, the cheese a little pungent, but out here, it's gourmet. Birds chirp overhead. Leaves rustle in the breeze. Nature's playlist, no ads included. Picnics weren't just for fancy lords either. Even the grubbiest peasant could grab a crust and head outside. It was a break from the grind, a chance to sprawl in the grass and soak up the sun. Beat scrolling TikTok in your dark bedroom. Right out. Here the vibe is free. The Wi-Fi is non-existent, and the only notifications are squirrels scampering by. Lunch done, you flop back staring at the sky. Clouds drift past, morphing into dragon ships. Maybe a grumpy monk if you squint. It's cloud-watching medieval-style no Netflix subscription required. You shut your eyes, letting the forest hum surround you. A breeze tickles your face, carrying the sweet scent of wildflowers. It's chill, almost too chill like nature's, daring you to nap. But this playground's got more tricks. Medieval folks saw magic everywhere out here. They'd tuck a sprig of rosemary in their pocket to dodge bad spirits, or swear a rabbit's foot meant good luck. Superstitious, much sure, but it spiced things up. Every tree could hide a fairy, every stream a secret. You half wonder if that rustle in the bushes is a fox or something spookier. As the sun dips, you head back to the river. The sky's on fire, no orange, pink, purple, the works. You park yourself on the bank, watching the colors bleed into the water. It's a showstopper, the kind of sunset that makes you forget deadlines and taxes. Medieval people didn't need Instagram filters. They had this raw and unedited. Night creeps in and you stick around. Stars pop out bright and bold, no city glow to steal their thunder. You lie back, grass prickling your neck, and pick out constellations. Orion's belt, the Big Dipper, the whole cosmic crew. They're sharper than you'd expect, like someone cranked the contrast. Medieval stargazers got this view nightly. No wonder they thought the sky was talking to them. Speaking of which, they read the stars like tabloids. A meteor. Big news could mean a bumper harvest or a bad omen depending on who's spinning the yarn. You spot a streak of light and make a wish just in case. Can't hurt, right? The forest shifts gears as darkness settles. Crickets kick off their jam session, an owl throws in a hoot, and something skitters in the underbrush. It's alive out here, a nighttime chorus that's equal parts eerie and cozy. You pull your cloak tighter, feeling the day's buzz fade into a mellow hum. Time to head back. You grab your stuff and trudge toward town, the moon lighting your way. The air's cool, scented with night blooms, a floral. Goodbye from nature. The woods thin out, and soon you hear it faint laughter, a creaking gate, the hum of life picking up again. You're almost home, but the days stuck with you the fish that glade those stars. It's a quiet win, a little piece of wild to tuck into your dreams. And about those nighttime's got its own magic in the medieval world. Next up, we're diving into the quiet of the night, where flickering candles and hushed voices turn the hours soft and strange. So snuggle down, listener. The day's done, but the story's just getting cozy. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, you made your way back to the warmth of your home. The day's adventures in nature's playground had filled your heart with joy, racing through the fields, splashing in the stream, and watching the clouds drift by. But now the world outside grew still, and it was time to settle in for the evening. The cool air brushed against your skin as you stepped inside the wooden door, creaking shut behind you. A wave of warmth greeted you, wrapping you like a soft blanket. Inside the cottage glowed with the golden light of the hearth. The fire crackled and popped, sending little sparks dancing upward, while shadows flickered across the walls. The scent of burning wood mingled with the faint aroma of the evening stew, now just a memory on the table. Your family was already there, their faces softened by the firelight, their voices low and gentle. The day's bustle had faded, replaced by a quiet that felt both peaceful and alive. You sank onto a sturdy wooden bench, the roughness of it familiar beneath you. The room was simple, but full of life. A table, worn smooth by years of meals, a chest in the corner holding blankets and treasures and tapestries on the walls, their threads telling stories of hunts and harvests. Candlelight joined the fire's glow, casting a warm circle around you all. It wasn't a grand hall or a castle chamber, but it was home, and that made it perfect. Grandfather settled into his chair by the hearth, his eyes bright despite the lines etched deep into his face. "Who's ready for a story?" he asked, his voice a gravelly hum that carried a hint of mischief. The children, your little brother and sister, scrambled closer, their excitement bubbling over. "A good one, please," your sister begged, and grandfather chuckled, stroking his beard as if coaxing the tale out of the air. Once long ago, he began, there was a shepherd boy who dreamed of the stars. One night, a wise old owl perched on his crook and promised to show him the heavens if he could guess her riddle. The room grew hushed, save for the crackling fire and grandfather's steady voice. You leaned in, caught up in the story, as he wove a tale of courage and cleverness. His words painted pictures in your mind: rolling hills, a sky full of stars, and an owl with eyes like moons. It was more than entertainment. It was a thread connecting you to the past, to the nights your ancestors had spent just like this, sharing tales by the fire. When the story ended with the shepherd boy gazing at the stars he'd earned, Father clapped his hands together. "Time for a game," he said, pulling a wooden chessboard from the shelf. The pieces knights and kings, carved from oak and bone, clacked softly as he set them up. Chess had traveled to Europe centuries ago, brought from distant lands across the sea, and it had taken root everywhere from noble courts to humble cottages like yours. It was a game of strategy, a quiet battle of wits, and tonight, Father was teaching your brother the rules. "See, the knight moves like this," Father said, guiding the piece in its L-shaped hop across the board. "And the queen is the most powerful of all." Your brother nodded, his tongue poking out in concentration as he mirrored the moves. You watched them, the soft light catching the edges of the board, and felt a swell of pride. It was a small moment, but it was your father passing down something timeless to his son. As the game unfolded, your sister reached for her lute, its polished wood gleaming in her hands. She plucked a few notes, testing the strings, then began to sing. Her voice rose clear and sweet, carrying a lullaby you'd heard 100 times before. Sleep, my child, the night is near, the moon will guard you, have no fear. The melody wrapped around you, soothing and familiar. There was a quirky old belief about songs like this. Some said they held magic, that the right tune could chase away evil spirits lurking in the dark. True or not, it worked its spell on you, easing the day's last tensions away. The lute's notes faded, leaving a stillness that felt almost sacred. Mother glanced around, her expression soft but purposeful. Time for prayers, she said, and you all gathered closer to the hearth. She led the words, her voice steady, as she gave thanks for the day, its sunlight and laughter, its food and shelter, and asked for safety through the night. You bowed your head, the familiar rhythm of the prayer grounding you. It was a simple act, but it tied the evening together, a final note of gratitude before the world slipped into dreams. The fire had dwindled now, its embers glowing a deep, sleepy red. You rose, stretching, and climbed the ladder to the loft where your bed waited. The straw mattress rustled as you settled in the blankets, rough but warm against your skin. Through the small window, the moon hung low, silvering the fields beyond. The night was quiet save for the distant call of an owl, perhaps the one from grandfather's story keeping watch over the world. Lying there, you thought about the day. It had been full, from the wild freedom of the outdoors to this gentle winding down. How much time did people like you really have for fun back then? Some scholars say medieval folk had plenty of leisure, with holy days and long winters breaking up the work. Others argue it was endless toil, dawn to dusk, with little room for rest. Maybe it was both hard days, made sweeter by nights like this, filled with stories, games, and songs. Your eyelids grew heavy, the lullabies echo, lingering in your mind. Tomorrow would bring new tasks, new joys. But for now, the quiet of the night held you close. The cottage sighed around you, its timbers settling, and you drifted off, dreaming of shepherds and stars, chess knights galloping across wooden squares, and a lute's soft song carrying you into the dark. The embers glow faint now, a whisper of warmth in the hushed cottage. You're tucked in tight, the day's echoes fading as sleep creeps closer. What will tomorrow hold? More tales, more games, or maybe a new adventure under the sun? For now, let the stillness wrap you up, dear listener, and carry you gently into dreams. Rest well until the morning calls us back together.